Hi guys, PJ here. Today I'm going to be fitting a neck-based dash cam into a 2020 Honda HRV. Now, as per usual, if you've watched any of my other dash cam videos or other electronics videos, I am going to be using the proper fitting kit recommended by the hardware manufacturer, whether it be Nextbase or Blackview or any other camera manufacturer. They normally have their own fitting kits. So first things first, guys, let's have a look what you get inside this kit. Full contents of the pack includes replacement power cable. This is to convert from 24 or 12 volts down to the required, I believe it's 5 volts these cameras operate at. And on the other end here, you have a power cable, which we'll take to the fuse box of the vehicle. I'll show you that later. An earth cable, which we're going to attach to the chassis of the vehicle, so maybe behind a mounting bolt or such like. On the other end, we have mini USB. This is the standard fitment for the current Nextbase cameras. So straightforward replacement cable. We also have fuse spurs. Now what these are is basically a doubler. So in other words, these convert one space in your fuse box to 2 spaces. So once you've tested your fuse box and we've figured out which fuse we're going to use for powering the camera, you pull the fuse out. You put the fuse that you've pulled out of the fuse box into this spare slot just here, and then the 2 or 3 amp that's already in runs the camera. So this one will run the camera, and then the fuse that you've pulled out and popped into here runs the original circuit. You then shove this into the gap where you pulled the fuse from. Like I say, we'll cover that later on. The other end terminates in a bullet connector, so obviously we can just click it onto there, nice and easy. Comes with 2 sizes of fuse spur. These are generally for larger, older cars, commercial vehicles. Some Mercedes still use them, but we won't be using it on this particular vehicle. Last of all, we have a ferrite filter. We're going to wrap this around the cable near the USB, and it's on a hinge. So basically with these, you open it up, you put the cable through the middle of it, wrap it around the back of it, and then through the middle of it again and out the side, click it shut. I'll show you that one in a minute. These are for helping with DAB radio interference, because cameras can interfere with DAB. Normally it's only rear cameras that interfere with DAB, but we will be fitting this. Basically it comes with the kit, so why not? Right, moving on. What tools would be ideal for doing the job? This is generally what I use for getting the job done. A multimeter, or you could use a test probe screwdriver, one of those ones where you touch something and the handle lights up to let you know it's powered. This is for using for testing the ignition switch. So we're going to be looking for a circuit in the fuse box that goes on and off with the ignition, but isn't a critical system. So in other words, nothing like airbags, ABS, car ECU or anything like that. We're going to be using something like a heater blower motor, that type of thing, maybe rear-rated screen, something non-critical. Long nose pliers. The reason I use these is because a lot of fuse boxes in vehicles are recessed quite far into the dashboard and very awkward to get the fuses from. Some snips, just in case we need to trim the wire lengths down. Probably the most important tool of all in this kit is this. This is a plastic leverage tool, and it's used for levering bits of plastic trim on when they're on clips. Now, you know, don't be tempted to use a screwdriver because it basically leaves dints in the plastic, makes a right mess. So plastic leverage tool available from like eBay, Amazon, car shops, normally £1 to £2, very worthwhile investing in. Some electrical tape, just in case we've got any excess cable to tape up and put out the way. Normally a couple of cable ties. I'll show you what we use those for in a second. So, with the toolkit assembled, we are now going to prepare the main power cable for putting it up above the windscreen where the headlining is in the vehicle. Here we have the ferrite filter going on. Like I say, it's on a little hinge. You open it up, put the cable through the middle, wrap it around the back, and then back through the front, snap the whole thing shut. After measuring the cable out across the top of the car, on this particular car it's a right-hand drive, so the fuse box is on the right-hand side under the steering wheel. So we're going to put the camera just to the left of the rear view mirror and then along the top of the headlining and down the screen pillar. So what we've done, pop a couple of cable ties around the cable, and then what I'm going to do is cover them in tape just to cover any rough edges from the cable tie. And what this is for is just to pad the cable out. If it's above your headlining, you're driving along, hit a large pothole, the last thing you want is the cable dangling down in front of your view, you know, while you're driving along. I mean, British roads certainly are full of potholes, so, you know, I'd probably recommend doing this. Like I say, you don't want the cable dangling down in front of you, just to aid it to keep it up above the headlining. Moving on, we're now going to put the cable up to the headlining of the vehicle. The best way to do this is quite literally with your fingers. There's a nice gap, and the headlining is made like of a fibre cloth substance, so it's very flexible. You don't need to go at it like a bull in a china shop. You just ease it away just a little tiny bit, just enough to tuck your cable up. We've got our cable tie here, yeah, so it's just right above the driver's view. And then what we're going to do is go along basically past the mirror. I am going to need both hands to do this, but I'm going to go all the way along until we get to this corner and then let the cable drop down with the other cable tie holding it up in place here. Now we're going to grab the rubber seal, yeah, the door seal here, and pull all the way up so that we can flex this corner. And behind it is your curtain airbag. So what we're going to do is pop the cable behind it, or if you want, you can go lower. Because if you go all the way down here, look, there you go, no airbag at the bottom. So some of them do have a full curtain that goes right round, some of them stop here, but we're going to go behind the airbag with the cable. So here's our cable. We're going to go behind here, behind the airbag, and then down the edge of the pillar to the corner of the dash. Once you're down the side of the dashboard, like I say, there's your rubber seal. This is where your plastic leverage tool comes into play. There's a little slot here to shove it into, and then you just pop to actually remove the plastic. Now, it is very, how can I put it? It's pretty feeble plastic, so take a lot of care with this as you're levering it out. Once you've got a nice gap, use your fingers to pull the rest of it off. It is actually on poppers, like I was saying. Next up, when we've removed the side panel so we can feed the cable down here behind out of the way, we're going to pop this panel off, okay? Now to get this panel off, we need to get the edge of this panel off. So bear with me here, guys. What you got to do is just pop it here, yeah? So plastic leverage tool, pop, and that will come away like so. This one's underneath, as you can clearly see. So it locks into it. There you go. Once that one is, you know, open as it were, on the back of it is two push studs, one there and one right at the back. So the best way to remove this is to put your hand behind it and pull like so, and that will come away. You can then take that out of the way, and the reason we're removing that is because it exposes a 10mm nut, or bolt rather, just here. This is an ideal earthing position for your cable because your fuse box is just there directly above it. So we're going to put the black wire to this with a ring terminal, earth, and run our power cable upwards. Here we have the end result. Now I've popped a little 8mm ring terminal on there just so it's nice and secure. I'm never too keen on the little horseshoes that come with these. I've trimmed the black cable down so it's not too long and tucked it neatly behind. So that's a really good earthing point for the system. We'll now move on to the power. Next up, we're testing for ignition power. Now, vehicle fuse box layouts will differ depending on country of origin, spec level, etc., right hand, left hand drive. So it is critical that you sort of test these and refer to your user guide for what fuse does what. With the ignition system off, we're now going to test the fuses. Now, I do a lot of these vehicles, I do a lot of every vehicle to be honest, and sort of get used to which ones I can use on a UK car. Now on this one, if I touch that fuse, that red 10 amp, ignition off, 0 voltage. Now let's put the ignition on. So again, we're going to touch the same red 10 amp. There we go, there's the probe, and there's the meter. 12 volts. There is your ignition switch supply on this particular vehicle. So we're going to get our fuse spur, take the fuse out and put it all together. There's our fuse spur with the car's 10 amp in and the 2 amp for the camera. We're now going to go ahead, pay note to the orientation of the fuse that I'm putting in, pop that in there, just like that, and that's your power. Now at this point, before we tidy the cabling up, it's a good time to test your camera works. Okay, so let's pop the ignition on. And there we go, we have life. Cabling all bunched up neatly and secured where necessary to the back here, so it clears everything. We can now tuck the excess behind all this here, pop the trim panels back on, obviously in the reverse procedure of how you took them off, and we're good to go. Well, that's it, guys. If you've got to that stage and your camera works, you've successfully fitted your own dash cam, please think about subscribing and viewing any other technical videos that I've got up there. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.